The thesis that I will bring forward today is that there is no sustainable development without innovation, and that innovation needs to overcome some specific challenges in order to contribute to this purpose. The innovation catalyst system that we have designed fulfills this role specifically, making it possible for relevant innovations to be transferred and implemented successfully, as well as respond to the needs, the specific concrete needs of territorial systems. Skipping the index, let's start with a brief recap of the current situation. So, a reasonable number of scholars suggest that there is no development without growth. However, growth continues to be pursued in the current development model by means of so-called dumping strategies. These strategies came about in a context of what we can call variable geometry globalization. That is, a globalization where the globalization of markets does not correspond to a globalization of rights and rules. This led territorial systems to adopt an unfair approach to competition way too frequently. So instead of competing fairly, they aimed at growth by dumping the costs of their own advancement or the satisfaction of their own needs on other competitors. This type of growth is not compatible with sustainable development. But what does sustainable development mean exactly? Building on the definition provided by the OECD, we can state that sustainable development happens when the following three conditions are realized. First, an optimal balance is reached between material living conditions and quality of life. Second, intergenerational or spatial inequalities have been re-equilibrated. Third, capital stocks and their fundamental characteristics are preserved for future generations. This is what we call intergenerational equality. In order to achieve this, existing dumping strategies need to be substituted with new decisional models. A fully realized multilateralism, strengthened international cooperation, and heightened social responsibility are the necessary backbone of this process. However, on their own, they are not enough, and a new economic paradigm is needed. The reason being that natural resources, as well as all four capital stocks, are conceived in the current economic system, in the current paradigm, to be infinite, whereas we must tackle the issue of scarcity of resources. This is why we refer to Pearson-Turner's model. Pearson-Turner's model was designed in 1989 by the two economists to face precisely the issue of scarcity of natural resources on Earth. This model is a fundamental guideline to start rethinking the functioning of the current economic system so that it fulfills one of its key functions according to the authors, which is the function of life support. In Pearson-Turner's model, we visualize the economic system as a closed cyclical one, meaning that the actions of each stakeholder contribute to the generation of levels of utility or collective well-being cycle after cycle. Pearson-Turner particularly evidenced that there are three main issues to be considered so that the system continues working properly. First is the selection and modality of use of resources, which for them are just natural resources, but we can consider to be all four stocks of capital. Second, we have the reduction of wastes, or more in general, negative externalities associated with processes of production and modalities of consumption. And third is the implementation of resilience strategies to minimize the impact of the negative externalities already generated. The goal would be that of reaching a dynamic balance between resources and levels of well-being so that resources can continue to be employed cycle after cycle to satisfy collective need without leaving anyone behind. We will shortly see how each of the stakeholders in the system has a specific role in this strategy. So, first of all, let's talk about the role of innovation in all of this. Innovation, we have to note, that is widely recognized to be fundamental for sustainable development. However, there are three interconnected problems with it. First of all, we have the problem pertaining to its production, and it's mainly related to the scarcity of functional innovation. That is the type of innovation which responds directly to practical, concrete societal needs. Secondly, there is a problematic lack of professional figures that are dedicated to transferring innovation. And third, there is an issue with the reception of innovation, meaning that socioeconomic structures can often act as a barrier to its reception. As Harvard Business School highlights, the successful transferring of relevant innovations will be one of the biggest challenges that we face in order to stimulate growth in the coming years. We can add to this that it will be one of the biggest challenges that we will face in order to move and progress towards sustainable development as well. Inspired by Porter's diamond, this figure represents the centrality of research and innovation, which can redirect the actions of the stakeholders of Pearce and Turner's model by, first of all, we see on the left, improving factor conditions, meaning that innovation can provide producers with better technologies or strategies to manage and employ the four stocks of capital in terms particularly of their availability, quality, proximity, and peculiarity. Further, innovation can provide firms and families with new tools and actions for firms to improve their efficiency in their demand and managing of the four capital stocks, in reducing their externalities during production processes, and in implementing new resilience strategies in order to minimize the impact of the externalities that were already generated. And for families, new actions and new strategies to access new types of products, sustainable products, reducing or minimizing waste or negative externalities associated with consumption processes, and implementing new resilience strategies. Simultaneously, this figure represents also the role on the one side of foundations, NGOs, and other similar organizations whose aim must be that of putting their effort into enhancing collective social responsibility, which is a fundamental part of this paradigm shift, while governments are responsible for the implementation of correct adjustment policies to ensure that these efforts can reach everyone equally. We can reintroduce what we just described into Pearce and Turner's model, modifying it as represented in this figure. In red, you can see the arrows representing supporting sectors acting on factor conditions, as well as firms and families. Further, you can see both the government and foundations and NGOs interacting with the other stakeholders to implement adjustment policies for governments and stimulate social responsibility for foundations. Ultimately, in yellow, you can see what is the synthesis, the goal of the circular economic model, which is the connection, the dynamic balance between resources and levels of utility generated. To this end, we have designed what we call an innovation catalyst system. The heart of this system is the circular innovation facilitator. This is what we call a new sustainable job whose task is that of advising, educating, and advocating towards relevant stakeholders for the realization of the paradigm shift. from linear economy towards circular economy. The Circular Innovation Facilitator thus does not only divulgate relevant innovations, but actively accompanies stakeholders in their implementation, taking on a proactive role in this process. The system as a whole is aimed at the implementation of circular economic models able to reshape stakeholders' behavior and restructure the economic system, making possible a new paradigm. The way the system works is by following a bottom-up approach. The Circular Innovation Facilitator interacts with relevant stakeholders, collects their needs, and simultaneously, the Circular Innovation Facilitator makes a selection of all those innovations that are in line with circular economic models, meaning innovations that are concerned with the selection and use of resources, innovations concerned with minimizing externalities associated with production and consumption, and innovations concerned with new resilience strategies that stakeholders can adopt to minimize the impact of their negative externalities. Thirdly, relevant innovations are then collected on a dynamic platform, which the Circular Innovation Facilitator uses as a sort of pool to draw from in order to select those functional innovations that respond to the needs of territorial systems and help society as a whole progress towards sustainable development. This system, which we are currently building up with some of our partners, is key in making society progress towards sustainable development and effectively responds to the three issues connected to innovation that we mentioned previously. So, first of all, it connects real societal needs with the work of supporting sectors. Secondly, it introduces a professional figure capable of the task of transferring those innovations. And third, working synergically with public institutions, it can overcome the barriers of structural impediments and therefore make sure that innovations, relevant innovations, can reach truly everyone. This is why we believe that the Innovation Catalyst system is a significant tool for us to achieve sustainability. Thank you.